Good morning, everybody. And since this is the beginning of the year, let me wish all of you a very happy 2021 and hopefully a 2021 when you will be back in school physically. We will be meeting each other more physically. Today, we are doing our 10th session on fractions. EBCD Math, which means everybody can do math, is taking the Janaganit sessions so that everybody, each one of you, and everybody who will watch these videos later will feel comfortable with the subjects which we are covering in these videos. Maybe the videos will move a little slowly, but I am sure that if you conduct all the activities and if you solve all the problems that we have been posing in these videos and which are being solved by our two participants in these videos, Gyan Jyoti and Nandita. If you solve these problems, you also will become comfortable with fractions. And there has been a little bit of repetition, but that is part of becoming comfortable. If you want to learn to dance, then you have to practice the steps. If you want to learn to play a musical instrument, you have to play the scales. If you want to learn to sing, you have to practice Sa-Re-Ga-Ma, the riyaz. So we have been doing a bit of riyaz while doing these fractions. That is why we have taken 9 and this is the 10th session on fractions, because we want to be sure that everybody watching these videos will be comfortable with fractions. That is the first point. The second point, which you may have noted, is that here we have used different ways of dealing with fractions. We have made fractions by making and cutting and measuring. So we are making fractions. We have drawn fractions using the slate or using the graph paper and using a scale. We have written fractions and we have talked about fractions. I have used the words 3 upon 4, 3 by 4, 3 pieces of 1 by 4, 3 into 1 by 4. These are all words for the same concept. So there is making, there is drawing, there is writing, and there is saying. These are 4 different ways. And while saying it, I've used different names for the same thing. So if we are comfortable with all these 4 ways of playing with or dealing with fractions, then we are comfortable with fractions. So let me give the list of what we have done in the last sessions so that you can recall how we have been proceeding towards becoming comfortable with fractions. We started out by making a fraction kit using graph paper and colored paper, pasting, cutting. Remember, what did we use as the length of this one?
12 centimeters.
12 centimeters. Now, let me tell you why we took 12 centimeters. Because 12 centimeters, when you draw on graph paper, there are actually 120 little parts of it. And 120, I can divide it into 2 equal parts, 60 and 60. I can divide it into 3 equal parts, 40, 40, 40. I can divide it into 4 equal parts, 30, 30, 30. I can divide it into 5 equal parts, 24, 24, 24, 24, 24. I can divide it into 6 equal parts, right? 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. It's not easy to divide it into 7 equal parts. So I have not used 1 by 7 while we were discussing fractions. While we were discussing fractions, we were using 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 5, 1 by 6. And 120 has many factors, so that's why we use 12 centimeters. Okay, that's a little inside secret about how we have made our fractions kit. But you can make this fraction kit with graph paper, colored paper, and because you have made this fraction kit, then you can play with it the way Nandita and Gyan Jyoti have been playing with fractions in these sessions. So in the first session, we made the fraction kit. In the second session, Introduction to Fractions, we made the point that fractions is not a new subject. It is a part of division. It comes out of division. Then we had 2 sessions on making and writing fractions. We wrote fractions and we made them and we wrote them. We knew how to go from the writing part, the numerals, to making, and from having made a fraction, how to write it. Then we discussed a very important concept of ratio. And we saw that a fraction is a ratio and a ratio is a fraction. So ratio is not a new subject. Ratio is also a part of division. But we used a new word, ratio, because later in the next sessions, in the coming sessions, having understood ratio, and we saw that understanding ratio is nothing new. It is just the understanding that we have of fractions and division. So if we are comfortable with ratio, then later on we will see it will be very easy to understand percentages, to understand profit and loss, to understand interest, to understand equivalent triangles, similar triangles. So that's why we spent a little time discussing ratio. Then we also saw different ways of writing fractions, the long form and the short form. And we were able to convert from the long form to the short form and from the short form to the long form. We saw that going from the short form to the long form just means cutting the fraction into pieces. I am mentioning all these things because this is by way of recalling what we have done in our journey over the last 9 sessions, from the 11th session of Janaganit to the 19th, which was the previous session. Today we have our 20th session of Janaganit. Another thing you may have noticed is that when we began Janaganit, there were long sessions of 1 hour, 1.5 hours. But now the sessions are short. They are around 25, 30 minutes. The reason being that nobody watches a very long video. But if you have to watch a 1-hour video, you will think 100 times. But watching a shorter video, 25, 30 minutes, is easier. That is why we have divided the subject now into parts. And we are carrying it not once a week, but twice a week. Earlier it was only Saturdays, but now we are doing it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So we are learning as we go along. We are making improvements as we go along. And I hope that all of the participants who are watching these videos are learning, are feeling comfortable, are gaining confidence that fractions is not a difficult subject. Fractions is something that we have been doing all the time. It is just a different language of discussing division and breaking something into smaller parts and putting the parts together, taking apart the parts. That is all what fractions is all about. So now let us proceed by doing a bit of revision so that we are confident that we know all these different ways, that is making, writing, saying, and we also did drawing. We also drew a line representing a fraction, representing 1. We drew squares representing the whole and the parts. So we were using length to represent a fraction, and we were using area also to represent a fraction. The drawing part we have not done much, but we will do that as we go along. When we come to multiplication of fractions, which is not something that we will do in depth in this session, we might touch it. When we come to multiplication of fractions, there we will be drawing fractions. We will be using graph paper more. We have not yet done subtraction, but since we know that 3 plus 2 is very easy, 3 cats plus 2 cats is?
5 cats.
5 cats. 3 cats minus 2 cats is?
1 cat.
1 cat. So if we know how to add cats, we know how to subtract cats. So if we know how to add fractions, we also know how to subtract fractions. But for adding fractions, we saw that the pieces have got to be of equal size. Okay, we have to make the pieces of equal size. So similarly for subtraction, we have to make the pieces of equal size. That's nothing new. But let's do a few problems now, and we will conclude by subtracting some fractions. Okay. So take your slate and pencil, and only Nandita, write 3 by 4. Show that to the camera. Okay, now Gyanjyoti, that was the which form?
Short form.
Short form. Can you write the long form? So Gyanjyoti, write the long form. Show that to the camera. Right. Now, if this is your 1, have you made some pieces of this? So, who has made pieces of 1 by 4? Okay, show those pieces. And what you have written on your slate, can you place the pieces? Right, so that is, what have you placed on your slate?
1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4.
1 by 4. So there you have written 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4, and you have also made it. Okay? Now, take your graph paper. And draw this. How will you draw this on your graph paper?
12 centimeter by 1 centimeter rectangle.
Well, actually, this is supposed to represent a length. So, if it's only a length, how will you represent it?
A 12 centimeter line.
A 12 centimeter line. Okay, so please draw this on your graph paper. Draw your 1 on your graph paper. You have a scale, but you don't need a scale, that's graph paper, so you can count. I will also do it here. And I will draw it on top so that I can use the So I think this is what you may have drawn. Right. So that is our 1. Now, can you draw 1 by 4? If this is 1, draw 1 by 4. I'm also going to do it, and let's see if we do the same thing. So below that, I'm drawing 1 by 4. And next to that, I'm writing 1 by 4. Right? I think everybody has done this, and all of you colleagues who are watching this video, please do these same problems yourself on graph paper. So the next problem now is, you know what is 1 by 4. So now draw 3 by 4. Right? I think everybody has drawn 3 by 4. Okay. Now the next problem is draw 2. Below that, below 3 by 4, draw 2. Okay, so you have drawn 2 like this. If I ask you to draw 3, what will you tell me? Can you draw 3?
We can, but it will be too long. It won't fit on the paper.
It won't fit on the paper. But I want you to draw 3, so let us now take a fresh piece of paper, graph paper, and instead of choosing our 1 as 12 centimeters, let's choose 1 as, what shall we choose 1 as?
5 centimeters.
5 cannot be divided into 3 equal parts. So what should we choose for 1? Remember why we chose 12? So what should we choose as 1? 4. 4 cannot be divided into 3 equal parts. What should we?
6.
We should choose 6, okay? These are all little tricks. So now let's take a fresh piece of paper and on that draw your 1 as a line of 6 centimeters. So Gyan Jyoti has drawn 6 centimeters and also drawn 3. All right, you've done both the problems. Okay, so now you have drawn 1, you have drawn 3. Can you draw this fraction now? I'm going to write it. And first you have to tell me the name of this fraction, Gyan Jyoti.
3 by 2.
And what is the long form of this?
1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2.
And how many pieces of 1 by 2 is this? Nandita?
3
3.
pieces of 1 by 2.
Right. So I can say that this is 3 by 2. I can say that this is 3 upon 2. I can say that this is 3 divided by 2. I can say that this is 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2. And I can also say that this is 3 pieces of 1 by 2. So there are so many 5 ways of describing this. So now, please take your slate and I'm going to say something and you have to write it. You have to write the numeral which is what I am saying. So what I am saying is 3 pieces of 1 by 4. Okay. So Nandita has written 3 by 4. Has written 3 into 1 by 4. Which is correct?
Both of them are.
Both are correct. Right? I am going to write it differently. You wrote it as 3 into 1 by 4. You wrote it as 3 by 4. I am going to write it as these are 3 pieces of 1 by 4. Okay. All right. So now I am going to give you a problem which is to draw this on your graph paper. You have drawn 1, you have drawn 3. Now draw this. So now I want to make this, how will I say this?
3 by 2.
How many pieces of what?
3 pieces of 2.
3 pieces of?
2.
Not 2.
1 by 2.
3 pieces of 1 by 2. Okay. So can you make 1 piece of 1 by 2? Make 1 piece of 1 by 2. Below that. Draw 1 piece of 1 by 2. And below that, draw 3 pieces of 1 by 2. So that is 3 by 2. Okay, Nandita, let's see what you have done. So you have first drawn 1, then you have drawn 3 by 2, and you have drawn half. Okay. Now below that, draw 3. Below that, draw 3. So what is that you have drawn? 3. So can you divide that into 2 equal parts? So divide that into 2 equal parts and draw 1 part below that. Okay. So if the line above is 3 and the line below is 3 divided into 2 equal parts, how will I write the line below?
1 by 3. 1 by 2.
What have you divided?
3 divided into 2 equal.
Yeah, so 3 divided into 2 equal parts, how will you write it? 3 divided by
2.
2. So write that. Now earlier, above the line, you have drawn
3 upon 2.
3 upon 2. Below the line, you have drawn.
3 upon 2.
So should they be the same length or different?
Same.
They should be the same length. Are they the same length? Show us. Yeah, give me this. They have to be the same length, right? Here we did 3 by 2 as 3 pieces of 1 by 2, which means 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2. This one you drew as 3 divided into 2 parts. So from here to here. So this was the long form and this is the short form. But they are the same. Okay. All right. Now, are you ready for some more problems? Take your slate and write. I'm going to say the fraction. You have to write it in whatever form you want. Writing it in the short form is easier. Writing it in the long form takes time. But it's up to you. It's your choice. Write 10 pieces of 1 by 4. Ten upon 4 is equal to 1 by 4 into 10, okay. And Gyanjyoti, you've written 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4, 10 times, which is 10 by 4, okay. All right. Now, on your slate, write 3 pieces of 1 by 6 plus 1 piece of 1 by 6. Right? So how many pieces of 1 by 6 is that? Three pieces of 1 by 6 plus 1 piece of 1 by 6. How many pieces is it?
4 by 6.
4 by 6. So that is equal to 4 by 6. Now, I will give you one more problem. Write 2 pieces of 1 by 5 plus 2 pieces of 1 by 5. How will you write 2 pieces of 1 by 5? Short form. Long form, how will you write it? Tell me.
1 by 5 plus 1 by 5.
Right. And short form?
2 by 5.
Right. So now write it in the short form. Write 2 pieces of 1 by 5 in the short form plus 2 pieces of 1 by 5 in the short form. Again,
Yes.
same thing. 2 pieces of 1 by 5 plus 2 pieces of 1 by 5 in the short form. That will be equal to 4 by 5. Okay. So 3 by 6, earlier we saw, 3 by 6 plus 1 by 6 is
4 by 6.
4 by 6. That's like 3 cats plus 1 cat is
4.
4 cats. So now, can you tell me, can you write down, Gyanjyoti, what is 3 by 6 minus 1 by 6? Write that on your slate. Not plus. Now, the new problem is 3 by 6 minus 1 by 6. What do you think the answer is?
2 by 6.
2 by 6. Write it. Three cats minus 1 cat, which is
2 cats.
2 cats. Okay. All right. Now, if I want to add 1/2 plus 1/3, write that down. 1/2 plus 1/3. Recall that while adding we wrote all the equal ratios for 1/2 and we wrote all the equal ratios for 1/3. We drew a line. Above the line, we wrote equal ratios for 1/2, and below the line, we wrote 1/3 and wrote equal ratios for 1/3. So on the back side of the slate, you do that. Right. So this is what we have written. And now we have to choose that form for 1/2 and that form for 1/3 in which the pieces are of the same size. So here, where are the pieces of the same size for 1/2 and 1/3?
3 by 6 and 2 by 6.
3 by 6 and 2 by 6. The pieces are, each piece is
1 by 6.
1 by 6. So now for this problem, which is 1/2 plus 1/3, I can write it in pieces of the same size. For 1/2, I will write
3 by 6.
3 by 6. And for 1/3, I will write
2 by 6.
2 by 6. And we know how to add 3 by 6 plus 2 by 6. The answer is
5 by 6.
answer is 5 by 6. So the answer is 5 by 6. So now, can you do this problem Can you do this problem? right? 3 cats minus 2 cats, which is 1 cat. So 3 by 6, show what you've done. 3 by 6 minus 2 by 6 is 1 by 6. All right. So now we know how to do subtraction. So one last problem. Take the fraction, instead of 1 by 2, now you take the fraction 1 by 4 and 1 by 3 and write all the equivalent fractions, the equal ratios for 1 by 4 and 1 by 3. And below that, write for 1 by 3. Those you have already written. Okay. So those you have, 1 by 3 is equal to, leave those there. 2 by 6 is equal to 3 by 9 is equal to 4 by 12. Now, which are the pieces of the same size?
3 by 12.
3 by 12 and?
4 by 12.
Right. So can you write 1 by 4 plus 1 by 3? Show that. So the answer is
7 by 12.
7 by 12. Okay. Now keep that there on the slate. Take a fresh slate. And write the answer to this problem. Look at the slate, what you have done earlier for 1 by 4 plus 1 by 3. You did it fatafat. Huh? So now we know how to subtract fractions. And this is where we will conclude this session. In the next session, we will take a review of all the 20 sessions that we have done up to now. Right? Beginning from geometry, algebra, negative numbers, signed integers, and fractions. And we will solve a few problems. We will do a revision of everything that we have done right now, so that we are ready to go on to the other problems in geometry, in algebra, in multiplication of fractions, understanding decimals. So the next session will be a revision session where we cover all the 20 sessions of Janaganit. Have a very good 2021, and by the time we reach the end of this session sometime in April or May, you will be comfortable with the concepts of 6th, 7th and 8th mathematics, the basic concepts. All the best.